everyone, real quick, if you're interested in booking private lessons with me, you can contact me through my website at breenmusiclessons.com. Link in the description and the pinned comment. All right, so here are 4 legato patterns that you want to try that'll really help your soloing. So legato is basically a very smooth and not very percussive style of executing notes. So a lot of people will even make the argument that it's a bunch of hammer-ons only. I would consider pull-offs in this legato conversation, but I understand why some people don't think pull-offs count as legato. When you do a pull-off, there is a plucking sound because you're pulling that finger down to create the next note. So it is a little more percussive than a hammer-on. So when you're doing a pull-off effectively, there is that snappiness to it, that plucky sound. So I can understand the argument for only doing hammer-ons for true legato, but I still kind of count pull-offs because what it enables you to do is not pick as much. If you pick every note, then it sounds very percussive, especially if you introduce palm muting into the runs. And there's kind of this jagged, broken up kind of sound. But when you do legato, it's a lot smoother and you kind of bridge the gap between notes a lot easier. So for the purposes of this video, I consider hammer-ons and pull-offs to be part of the legato style. So obviously you can just play straight up the scale, and it's more effective to use 3-note per string scale patterns. So here is the position that I'm mainly working in. Now when I start to do some of these legato patterns, I choose to use my middle finger and my ring finger down here instead of using my ring finger and my pinky. You could do either. But obviously the middle finger and the ring finger are bigger fingers, so they're a little stronger and they can handle the variation that we're throwing at them for these legato patterns. So I just decided to use middle finger and third finger, and also because it lines up with the positioning a little bit better. So for example, when I'm on the A string, and then I go to the D string right after that, my middle finger is now lined up across the 9th fret in this case. If I did it the other way with the ring finger and the pinky, I have that little changeover right there where it was my ring finger on the 9th fret of the A string, but then my middle finger on the 9th fret of the D string. So especially if we're gonna be playing a little faster and a little smoother, I don't wanna have any issues where I'm transitioning between notes with different fingerings. So that was the other reason why I decided to go this way. So the first pattern is a sequence of 3. So I'm going up the scale pattern, 3 notes in order, and then back down a note. So up 3, down 3, up 3, down 3. And then the opposite going back down. That one probably has the most percussive elements to it because I choose to pick the beginning of every string. When I'm jumping to another string, I pick. So when I'm going back and forth across adjacent strings, I am picking those notes. So you can make an argument that maybe this one is the least legato sounding. The next one is another sequence ascending in groups of 4. But the difference is now I'm going up in a group of 4, but I want to start on the next note in the scale. So I'm actually going up 4, back down 2, up 4, down 2. Reverse it on the way down, down 4, up 2. The next one is a sequence going up in 3 and then back down 3. So I'm playing a lot of notes on one string, which kind of makes this a smoother, more legato-driven idea. So I go up the first 3 notes of the string, back down those same 3 notes, and then back up 1. This allows me to do a grouping of 6 notes at a time. And I'm not kind of doing it in a linear sequence going up and up and up. I'm just doing it string by string. So I do that sequence on the E string, and then I just start it over on the A string, and then on the D string. So it's not a true sequence the way the other 2 were. And I just go back down the same way. Final pattern for today is just a variation of that idea. So I'm going further. I'm going up 3, back 3, and then I skip the second interval, go to the minor third. And then after I hit the minor third, I go back to the root, and then I go to the major second. So it went from being a 6-note idea in the previous example to now an 8-note idea. And then I just jump from string to string doing the same idea. So this is all played at the tempo of 140 beats per minute. I do them all individually, and then at the end I mix it all together to see what it would sound like in a real situation. Because in a real situation, you're not necessarily going to play the entire sequence or any one of these sequences from beginning to end. You're going to play little pieces or little fragments of them, and then probably mix around the different variations and the different sequences.